Whoa, I feel like I just took a portal to 2015, a much simpler time for me. I've been itching to make a Mortal Kombat video, and since my Mortal Kombat 1 video breakdown isn't going to be released until much later now that the end of its DLC cycle has seemingly come, I thought I'd revisit the game that made me a fan of the series, Mortal Kombat X. Where do I even start? I guess I'll start with the story time. I had to be around 14-ish years old when Mortal Kombat X was released, and Mortal Kombat at the time wasn't really on my games I wanted to play radar. Up to that point, my experience with Mortal Kombat was watching my older cousin play Mortal Kombat 3, and a high school friend of mine who had Mortal Kombat 9 for the PlayStation Vita, which at the time I didn't even know was Mortal Kombat. I just remembered it as the fighting game that had that one fighter with 4 arms. My apologies, Prince Goro. Thanks to the PlayStation 4 SharePlay feature, an early PSN friend of mine named Jay shared Cade MKX with me, and something just clicked. He was Scorpion and I was Sub-Zero because I remembered my cousin would pick Sub-Zero all the time, and even though I was getting my butt kicked, I was still having so much fun. My mission was simple: obtain Mortal Kombat X, a mature rated game that cost a whopping $60 US, and I am a 14-year-old with no job. But that did not stop me. I was doing chores I've never done before for extra cash. I was washing cars, mowing lawns, and even babysitting until I was able to afford the game. I couldn't get a physical copy because, like I mentioned earlier, I was too young, so I had to buy a bunch of PSN cards to buy digitally. All of these details are important to me and this video because Mortal Kombat X was genuinely a watershed moment in my life. This game was the catalyst for my love of fighting games. If I were to look back in my life of the games that have had a serious impact on me and how I view the medium, just to name a few, I'd say Grand Theft Auto 3 and Vice City. I would say Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I would say Super Paper Mario. And I'd have to put Mortal Kombat X on that list. I put nearly 500 hours into this game. And even though it kind of messed with me to fall in love with a franchise that's been well established for over 20 years at that point, luckily for me, when I'm into something, I get all into it. And I'm finding out everything about everything. Finding out that MKX was coming fresh off the heels of a rebooted timeline made me feel better, as the roster consisted of classic fighters like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Johnny Cage, and Raiden, while also including a slurry of new and interesting characters like Veritor, Devora, Aaron Black, Kotal Khan, and the Kombat Kids, Cassie Cage, Jassy Briggs, Kung Jin, and Takeda. Mortal Kombat 9 is often regarded as having the best roster in the series, and Mortal Kombat 1 has also received praise for its 3D era representation. But I think MKX needs to be included in the conversation a lot more, especially when it comes to the DLC fighters, who I'll talk about soon. Mortal Kombat X also introduced the variation system, which I never took full advantage of. Sub-Zero's Grandmaster and Unbreakable variations are cool, but Cryomancer was where all my setups were, so I rarely branched out, and that was for pretty much every character. The concept of it though is still really cool. In a way, it's like you're playing 3 different characters. I especially love when the variation feels drastically different. Like Kitana has a variation that has her place similar to Jade, and Veritor has a variation where Farah isn't involved at all. Variations were a very cool game-changing addition that Mortal Kombat 11 made even better, but it all started here. The variation system doesn't just add variety to the characters, but variety to the gameplay. This may sound obvious when I say it like that, but there's a big difference between Ninjutsu Scorpion and a Cryomancer Sub-Zero, and an Inferno Scorpion versus an Unbreakable Sub-Zero. I also forgot how fast this game is. It even has its own dedicated run button, and how you're able to do things that haven't been in NRS games for a while now, like getting a pop-up from a neutral jump, or being able to grab your opponent out of a juggle combo. Another thing that I thought was, and I don't say this word loosely, revolutionary, were the custom 3 lines of dialogue between every fighter. This was not only a way to expand the game's lore, but give even more insight into the relationships between characters. They can be as serious as finding out Reptile's real name.
Step aside, Syzoth.
You know my true name.
And the path to your defeat.
Or they can be this.
We are many. We are many more.
We are many more, but infinity times infinity no paybacks.
I just love when this game doesn't take itself too seriously. The Crypt returns as a first-person mini-RPG. Traversing the Crypt, acquiring MK artifacts and weapons to access was an ingenious way to make it more interactive than just pressing a button to destroy a tombstone. This version of the crypt is the version I think about the most, and it's mainly due to the jump scares. But of course, the crypt isn't the only form of additional playable content. We see the return of towers, both classic and timed. Test Your Might makes a return, and my personal favorite, Test Your Luck. To this day, I still don't have every modifier unlocked, but I had enough to make Test Your Luck utter chaos, and it was one of the most fun things for me to do. I can't speak on the online play too much, as most of the hours I put into this game were spent doing single player stuff. I mean, I could do a combo with Sub-Zero, and later Jason was a character I took seriously enough to learn, but MKX Online was a different beast, and I refused to be everyone's flawless victory. Something about the online I did take seriously were the faction wars. You're asked to join one of the 5 in-game factions, those being the Special Forces, Brotherhood of Shadow, White Lotus, the Black Dragon, and the Lin Kuei. You pick a faction and you earn experience for that faction by playing the game and beating invasion bosses. No, not that invasion. NKX invasions were NPC Mortal Kombat characters like Sindel, or in my case when I went in to record this, Kung Lao, and the game's final boss, Corrupted Shinnok. Whichever faction performed the best by the end of the cycle was rewarded with in-game currency. Speaking of non-playable MK characters, I do believe MKX was the first to start this trend of some characters only being available in the story mode. Characters like Fujin, Striker, Sindel, Cabal, Smoke, Nightwolf, Baraka, Serena, Lime, and Rain. That is half a roster right there. 15-year-old me could not fathom why they would tease me like this. I'm just getting into the series. Their models are in the game. You even fight against Rain and Baraka. Early MK days, when there was so much speculation about who would be DLC, was just so cool looking back on it. But alas, we never got even a fraction of those guys. The only ones that later came playable were Bo Raicho and Tanya with the DLC. I wrote down here in this part of the script that I should also mention things I didn't like to kind of balance out the praise so much. So I didn't like one thing I didn't like about the. Okay, look, I'm not saying that MKX is perfect, but maybe you guys can help me down in the comments below about some things you didn't like about it. Alright, now about MKX's story. I really enjoyed the Special Forces angle to introduce the combat kids. I can vividly remember being excited to show my older family this game because, well, they grew up with Mortal Kombat, so when they found out characters like Jax and Sonya have kids, it made them feel even older. Mortal Kombat 9's big bad was Shao Kahn and a little bit of Shang Tsung. And that game was based on the original trilogy, so Mortal Kombat X having Shinnok as the big bad was really appreciated. He may not be as physically imposing as Shao Kahn, but my man is an elder god. Ain't nothing stopping him. Okay, might be getting a little ahead of myself. Quan Chi's goal for the entire game, up until he dies at least, is to set Shinnok free from his amulet that was in possession of Raiden but stolen by Mileena, which was later commandeered by Kotal Kahn, which in an act of betrayal was taken by D'Vorah. Once freed, he attempts to poison Earthrealm's life force and then enter the combat kids to save the day. Cassie in particular, who I assumed after this game would be one of the new faces of MK, but we all know how that turned out. Mortal Kombat X's story isn't anything award-winning, but I found it really fun and enjoyable. You can say that about probably every NetherRealm story, but MKX knew the route it wanted to take and it stuck with it. It must have been pretty tricky trying to navigate a Mortal Kombat game that doesn't involve a tournament. Fans seem to hate the Special Forces story, but the beginning of it wasn't so bad. I love the inclusion of new characters in the Mortal Kombat mythos. D'Vorah played a much more prominent part in the story than I would have initially thought, establishing her as the most untrustworthy character on the roster that has characters like Kano and Quan Chi. And just to make sure we hate her, she canonically kills Baraka and Mileena. Kotal Kahn taking the place of Shao genuinely felt like a worthy successor. He's introduced early in Chapter 2 and looks to be a strong, level-headed, just, though sometimes true traditional emperor who commands respect off his sheer tone alone. With D'Vorah being the only exception, his inner circle has the likes of Ferritor, Ermac, and Erron Black, all loyal for completely different reasons. Ermac being a collection of souls made to serve Shao Kahn, but with Shao dead, his loyalty fell to the next Khan and Outworld as a whole. Ferritor is your typical brute bodyguard, which a demigod like Kodo really doesn't need because he's already so physically imposing, but it's an extra layer of protection and, in all honesty, a way to include them in the story. And in a world with demigods, symbiotic Mad Max-style relationships, and a character literally made of other souls, a cowboy seemed like the next logical choice. Aaron is a mercenary whose loyalty is sowed to the highest bidder, and even though he's an Earthrealmer, Kodo rules Outworld, so his loyalty falls to Outworld. Or the Combat Kids. Being related to the OGs of the series wasn't enough. Jackie joined the Special Forces against her father's approval to not only protect Earthrealm, but in hopes to avenge some of the suffering her father endured thanks to Shao Kahn, who controlled him as a revenant, and the most traumatic of them all, getting both his arms ripped off by Ermac. Kung Jin is Kung Lao's cousin, a descendant of the great Kung Lao, who wasn't always like his ancestors. He was a thief, and his outlook on life was changed thanks to Raiden, who convinced him to join the Shaolin monks, and from there would bring his street smarts and sassy attitude to the Special Forces. Takeda was arguably the coolest member of the clique. Being the son of the blind swordsman Kenshi and trained by the poster boy himself, Scorpion, with a motive to avenge his mom after she was killed by the Red Dragon clan. He possesses the immaculate skill he learned from the two greatest mentors in the franchise's history and applies those skills in the Special Forces. Cassie Cage has her dad's wit, but her mom's discipline. It's clear from the start that she was set to be the hero of this story. She's in the middle of some family drama, a dysfunctional team, and a looming threat that apparently only she can stop. The perfect amount of pressure to make a diamond out of our hero. We're able to see Grandmaster Kuai Liang teach them a lesson about teamwork, the hard way.
You and your friends show much promise, Cassandra Cage. But until you function as one, you will fall short.
Cassie comes out a hero, which was the perfect setup for the next generation to dominate the roster for future games. This game's story also marks several pivotal points in the series' history, such as longtime rivals Scorpion and Sub-Zero burying the hatchet. After years of harbored resentment towards each other, this game marked the revelation that their hatred for each other was nothing more than a product of Quan Chi's lies. At the very end of the story, we also see the, well, I was about to say introduction, but I guess really the return of Dark Raiden. No longer playing by the rules, fed up with Outworld's meddling and his losing his champion, he decides that when it comes to protecting Earthrealm, he ain't waiting for the threats. He's going straight to them. Speaking of losing his champion, as most of you know, a bunch of fighters were killed off in MK9, and all of them make appearances in this game in their revenant form. Characters like Jax and Sub-Zero are restored to their human form for most of the story, and I guess Scorpion was never really a revenant, but we get to see a less vengeful Hanzo. Though others such as Kung Lao and Liu Kang have older versions of themselves as if nothing happened. MK11 went on to do it, but this should have been the game where revenant skins should be default skins for all characters they apply to. Which, I guess referring to my older comment, is something I don't really like about the game. Mortal Kombat X was also heavily involved with MK Mobile to give us a bunch of cool skins like Future Raiden and Injustice Scorpion. Fucking Injustice Scorpion. How has this not been in every Mortal Kombat game since then? And there aren't any shortage of skins either, as every base roster fighter has additional skins to choose from. And when I say skins, I mean traditional skins before NRS started using the gear system in their games. Some of them outdo other skins by a quarter mile, and some of them are just sort of there. The only characters who don't have alternate skins are the 8 DLC characters. Well, 9. Sorry again, Prince Goro. On the Mortal Kombat side, we got Tanya, Tremor, Boraicho, and Triborg. Tanya hasn't been playable since Armageddon up to that point, and we wouldn't see Tanya playable again until Mortal Kombat 1. Tremor made his debut in Mortal Kombat Special Forces and didn't become playable until this game. He wasn't even in Armageddon, and everybody was in Armageddon. Boraicho made his long-awaited playable return also since Armageddon, and Triborg fulfills his Armageddon ending, making Cyber Smoke, Sector, and Cyrex into one fully functioning cyborg. On the guest side, we have Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, Alien, and the Predator. The Horror Four, as I called them for literally the first time in this video. I'm gonna tell you guys right now, I'm not a horror person. I'm a baby when it comes to that stuff. But this game was the reason I watched Predator and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The same way Mortal Kombat 11 got me into Rambo when Injustice 2 got me to watch Hellboy. So there's the personal side of it, and then there's the fact that all of those guests are, and still are, some of the coolest guests NetherRealm has ever gotten in their games. They even gave the freaking Xenomorph Tarkatan blades. you can't beat that. Now, I've been talking about this game for a while, but it genuinely was the start for my love of fighting games. Even at almost 10 years old, MKX holds up extremely well, as it is still regarded as one of the best games in the series. There's even little things I didn't really touch on lore and otherwise, like how Cassie Cage canonically kills Shujinko in her tower ending, and with that same theme, Quan Chi can sometimes enter with the head of Moloch. Or how there's a non-variation way to play, and giving Triborg no variation will let you play as Cyber Sub-Zero. Or even how Shang Tsung makes an appearance in the game.
It is I, Shang Tsung. Show yourself, coward.
But I think I'm going to wind the video down here. You know, I started doing this thing recently where at the end of every video, I just kind of freely speak. I don't know if this is your first time watching me. My content is I make a video about something I enjoy, and I write a script about it, and I go off the script, and I have everything very intricately done, and I have to go in and do like several takes and make sure it sounds good, But then when the video's finished, I kind of just do this where I just talk to you guys. It feels more freeing that way. I'm stuttering a lot less. It just feels like better this way. But when I actually try to do a video like this, I feel like I stutter more. Anyway, that has nothing to do with the video. MKX, ladies and gentlemen. I loved Mortal Kombat X, still do. Genuinely one of my favorite fighting games of all time. Going back to play it for this video was heartbreaking because I'm very, very bad at it. I was never good at MKX. Never good at MKX. I know friends in real life that would smoke me in MKX 10 years later, which is a crazy thing to say. 10 years. It's officially 2025 when this video should be out. When it should be out, I don't know, but I'm recording it in April. It is early April. I'm recording this video in April. And I know friends now that can boot up MKX and beat me in it. I was never that good at it. Even though I mentioned earlier Sub-Zero and Jason, I could not hold a candle to, like I said, I go online, I'm cooked. I'm not winning a single match. Actually, if you guys want to know some cool Spug lore, this video was scheduled to go out a long time ago, but I ended up breaking my computer, which is something that you guys may hear in a lot of videos because I'll be explaining that a lot as I pump these videos out in my free time. And I lost a lot of my MKX footage, but I went online to play, and the server is still active and people are still on there every day, and I actually win a match, which kind of disproved my point. So I debated not using it, but I thought the irony would have been funny of me actually winning a match after not playing the game for 7 or 8 years at that point. But this game genuinely meant a lot to me. I put 500 hours into this game, and I mentioned briefly earlier, but it was no online. Like, I did not play online because I knew I would lose. I love playing with my friends and my family because we are also bad at fighting games. We're bad. I've since gotten better. But when no one knows what they're doing, it kind of makes it more fun, and MKX was that game. I love showing the fatalities to my family. I love buying the DLC characters. That was a hassle. If you guys thought buying the game, that story time earlier, the game was a hassle, trying to purchase each individual DLC character was an even bigger hassle, man. The more they released characters, I was like, oh man, I gotta find ways to get $20 again, and I don't have a job. It was a time, man. It was definitely a time. But I appreciate those times because I'm able to make videos like this, which 10 years later can kind of be looked at as a retrospective, which I want to go over to you guys now, because when I was making this video, I legit just wanted to make a smaller kind of mini retrospective on MKX and what it meant to me, and have you guys kind of feel that same way. But going back to the game, I really enjoyed it, and I would love to make a longer video. I would love to make a fully fledged retrospective, possibly over an hour long, or close to it, even longer than what this video turns out to be. Breaking down everything from every character to where they're at in the story, to every chapter in the story, to who they fight, to why they're fighting, to what's going on. And I just hit those points, like main points, like I did in this video. I would really love to do that. Only if you guys want it, though. I thought this would have been more digestible, but maybe you guys want to see it. And if you do, I will oblige. Leave a comment down below. I read all of them, I promise. Leave a like on this video if you liked it. And let me know what you guys want to see. Let me know your favorite part, your least favorite part. What's your favorite thing about MKX? What's your least favorite thing about MKX? I really want to know. And I never really know how to wrap up a video, but I'm gonna go now. I've been Spoke to the Plug, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.